And we're on. Ori Hofmekler, thank you for being on Fitness and Consciousness.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, this is really cool for me. I've known about you for a long a long time, and I think the first that I heard of you was about the warrior diet, and I was studying Pavel Tsatsouline and then like the warrior diet, and it kind of was what I like naturally did anyways. I didn't have a name for it, but a lot of times I would just like eat like one big meal at night. I wouldn't really want food during the day. And then you have your latest book, The 7 Principles of Stress, which you've taken that to the next level. And there's I haven't read all of that one yet, but I have read some of it. And can we get into like what the difference is? Like, what is your latest information that's guiding what you're doing now?
Well, I wrote the book, The 7 Principles of Stress, because it's dealing first time, perhaps ever, in such a way with the fundamental concept of stress. People generally think of stress as a negative force, and it's correctly so. Stress can really kill you, literally. But it is an inherent factor of life that is not only essential to us, it can, if you know how to map it and take advantage of it, it actually can extend your life. I'm trying to prove that more than double your lifespan. It can make you biologically fit, which is far beyond what people even see as conventional fitness. And it can empower you with abilities to resist stress and aging in a way that go far and beyond conventional thinking. I thought it's very important to show the science behind stress and help people map their way, because every minute and second of our life, including right now, we are both under stress. The question is, do you understand it? And if you understand it, what can you do? So, since I wrote The Warrior Diet, I felt a great need to explain fundamental concept like this, how stress affects our fitness, health, sex life, aging, and capacity to keep improving, not just resist aging. Let's just explain here. We live in a very static concept that basically we can resist the aging process so we don't get older. But there is something much stronger than that. We have a system, and I show a lot of presentation and science behind it in my book, that not only resists aging, it keeps improving you. In theory, the same person, 60 years old, can in many ways be more fit, both mentally and physically, than the same person 20 years earlier. It's absolutely contradict what we train to think or believe, but it's true. And it's true not just on us, on every mammal that exists. But again, we need to know what to do. It's go far beyond the warrior diet, because it's go to the core fundamental concept of what trigger us to adapt and improve.
Right. Yeah. So what I was reading was like you're talking about hormesis, and these low doses of stress increase your tolerance for the higher levels. And if you could, like you mentioned, like conventional versus biological fitness, you mentioned that before we started recording. Also, you wanted to get into the real differences between that. Can you like tell us how that all fits in? Like when I think of like these stresses, maybe I'm like kind of like frustrated the long day. Maybe I want to go and I want to lift heavy and I want to be explosive and do heavy bag, and But maybe somebody else thinks like, oh no, you should go do yoga today because you're too stressed out. You should go do yoga. Like, well, I might be more frustrated doing yoga because I need to get this power out. And then maybe like my diet isn't right or something like that. Can you tell us like how that all sort of fits
You
together?
presented it great. There is such a chaos that you already feel it yourself in the concept of modern concept of human fitness and general fitness. People cannot even define the goals. They know there's a stress. Exercise is actually stress. They are familiar with the concept of adaptation. Hey, you adapt, improve, gain strength, gain durability. But these are such a limited concept. There is something much bigger than that. And that exists in all biological systems. And that's the ability to survive and thrive. Survival has a clear science behind. Human fitness today, conventional, has no science behind. The goals are not clear. What exactly are you looking for? Do you want to be stronger? And if you want to be stronger, for how long do you wish to be stronger? Did you ever check if there's a trade-off here? That means if you gain strength, maybe you're losing something else. Are these questions even asked? No, they're not even asked. So what I'm here for, and I came with my recent books, especially the last book, to bring you the clarity and the science of what is biological fitness, which is the fitness the way nature, the way God intended. This is the fitness that clearly have a definite goal, help you better survive and live longer while resisting stress, aging, and disease. Clearly, it took me less than 20 seconds to say that. Ask a guy from conventional fitness, what's your goal? He probably will hit the wall after he say, I want to be strong, or I want to be durable, or I want to score. I show some statistics which are really, really scary in many ways. There is now, science is now recognizing a direct association between competitive endurance, like competitive endurance athletes, and shorter lifespan. In fact, they found that these super specimen, marathon runner, long distance skiers, triathlon runners, when they become professional competitive, like with world score, these are specimen. Well, think about it. These are people that can run 12 miles per hour for 2 hours. These people do not live longer than couch potatoes. There is a trade-off. You go for maximum performance, you lose your lifespan. I explain in my book why this is happening. Scientists believe there's a threshold of performance that if you need to train and cross this threshold, you would shorten your lifespan. Why? It's all come down to stress. Stress has a threshold. As long as you know where it is, especially in your personal life, you can take a huge advantage of it. It's a process which called hormesis that allow you to keep improving and improve regardless to your age. Biologically, we can talk about it later. I don't want to be too technical, but it's an awesome system that exists in all living creatures, from bacteria to human, that evolved to improve the species in response to stress. But again, there's a threshold. When you're too low or too high, that can kill you. That can shorten your life. You need to know where you are, and you're not learning about it in conventional fitness. It's a chaos. It's a mayhem. Some people know, okay, there is something which is called overtraining. We shouldn't overtrain. But when? And how do you figure out? And what's the consequence on your fitness 10, 20, 30, or 50 years later? Can you be smart enough to make yourself fit to double your lifespan? Can you physically multiply or have sex 30, 40 years from now? Is it even possible to think about it? Well, the Bible addresses it. The Bible says things that we refuse to believe, that people live hundreds of years, and Sarah was 80 years old or 70 years old when she had Isaac, and Abraham was way over his 80s when he conceived his son. So is the Bible lying? I don't think so. I think that we live now in the world with so much confusion and deceit on fundamental concepts that define our life, that we are just shooting blind bullets. We don't even know where we go. I'm not saying we, I'm talking about conventional people and even great guys who managed to gain or achieve incredible scores and very interesting training program or even diet are falling victim to this unclarity. I came with the concept of intermittent fasting about 20 years ago. I was the first one who wrote about it. In my book, The Warrior Diet, presented the concept. 2 years after my publication of the book, the first studies on intermittent fasting already have shown how nutritional stress of reducing your meal to one main meal a day, how under eating or fasting, putting yourself under nutritional stress for 16 hours a day, 12 to 16 hours a day, can improve the lifespan of animals while turning them resilient to diabetes, obesity, and aging. This knowledge already exists, but now it's time to move it to the highest level, and that was the purpose of the 7 principles of stress. So there is a difference between biological fitness and conventional fitness. While conventional fitness is about crisis management or gaining maximum strength or gaining maximum performance, biological fitness is about maximum life. Maximum life, maximum resiliency to stress, disease, and aging. I'll give you one example, just how we translate biologically. Let's say that you are let's say you're a bodybuilder, and you build this super mega muscle, and you have a regimen to successfully do it, even if you don't take steroids. The muscle that you should build generally is primarily made of fast fiber type 2, which are fed primarily on carbohydrate, sugar. These are sugar addicts, and they have incredible size and strength, but for a very short time. Biological fitness is very different. The muscles that you would build by regimens such as exercising while you fast or exercise while you undereat, you build muscle with a different muscle quality, way superior. You're gonna see mitochondria, much higher mitochondria density. Mitochondria, for those who don't know, it's the energy organelles of the cells. It's an organelle with its own DNA that is responsible for energy utilization in the cell. Your muscle ability to endure and sustain itself depend on this structure. So instead of the type 2B, which is predominantly the strong and fast muscle of conventional fitness, myosin heavy chain gene actually convert them to a more biologically fit muscle, the type 2AX, high in mitochondria. A guy who is biologically fit is never looking over bulky or oversized. He can have incredible strength and durability, very lean muscle. But the last thing that I had to say, not only that your body under biological is resistant to aging and disease, your metabolism and energy utilization efficiency is so much higher. Your fat cells even look different because you activate different genes. You activate two longevity pathways, especially AMPK, with gene like PPAR alpha, that make your fat cells small and ready to burn rather than ready to store. There's a lot of science behind. I feel like guilty even saying it as I'm just throwing some names so people realize this is based on facts. Again, ask yourself, what do you want to be? You want to be strong and trade off the other properties of your potential, or you want to be biologically fit? People should ask themselves this question.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. One of the things that I wrote down to ask you about was the glycogen depletion for maximum resiliency in the fasting. So I'm 39 now. So I like doing martial arts, I like lifting, I like sparring, and as I think as I'm like teaching martial art, what kind of martial art am I going to teach? Because a lot of like jujitsu guys end up with all these injuries, and you get like some of these like really famous ones like Hickson Gracie, who's of course way better than me, but his back is a mess. Of course, he's been in battles, he's been fighting for his family's name for decades, and so he's doing something completely different than me in a way. But it's like, well, what can I do to avoid that? How can we do that? Or if I'm like in the same thing with like lifting, if we're like punching, it sounds like different. I'm getting to what I'm getting to the point. Like if we're going to work on boxing, well, I want to work with a good boxing trainer, but do I want to get punched in the head by a good boxer a lot? No, I don't. Because I want to be able to use my brain in the future. I don't want that damage. So like, while in the short term, yeah, I'll get tough. I mean, if I'm working with a pro boxer, I'm mixing it up. I'm used to training with these super tough guys, but later on, I'm going to pay for it, and we see that. And as I'm, headed towards 40 years old, and I'm thinking about like, what am I doing? It's going to look different than when I was 20. And so you're talking about these. I didn't think I really understood it this way before, but the glycogen depletion for maximum resiliency, you're actually like feeding the different muscle fibers, and they're changing. Is that what you're saying?
We need to start with this. It's a very important question what you ask. It's all coming down to one name, one term. It's called energy. We were trained to believe that like machine, we need energy. We need to consume. You can see the market is full of energy product, and mistakenly, it's so we can so easily fall into the trap. If you put a piece of chocolate or sugar in the mouth, it gives you immediately boost of insulin and energy. So you feel that, okay, that's what I need. But in biology, the truth is exactly the opposite. It is energy depletion that trigger your ability to improve. It is by all means the most studied area possible. Energy restriction, calorie restriction, and fasting. And exercise all involve depletion of energy, of major trigger of adaptation and improvement in all animals. There's no question about it. And energy loading, especially excess of energy, have been shown repeatedly again and again to cause disease, aging, metabolic syndrome, hence obesity, diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease. The problem is that we live in a world with an industry that encourages us to believe in energy loading. In fact, even athletes believe in it. And to some degree, it does work because short-term performance, it's good to have your glycogen reserve full because it gives you the initial burst that you need when you fight or flee or perform. And I have to respect it. However, as a way of life, as a conditioning, I'm talking about conditioning, not the fight competition itself, the conditioning. In conditioning, it is actually imperative to train your body to work hard under condition of energy depletion. And recent studies in the last decade have shown when a depletion of glycogen is extreme, The body compensates by active massive system that compensate. And one of them have shown to wake up stem cells that are in the brain that otherwise would not be generated, to regenerate new brain cells, let alone cellular factor and genes that you activate to improve your muscle composition. Your body simply is a machine that improves upon stress. It has all the common sense behind it. This was an evolutionary necessity, not just advantage, for organisms to improve under stress. Otherwise, there will be no life on this planet. We just fail to fully take advantage of it. So yes, depleting glycogen brings you to a most resilient state. Your whole body is now tuned and psyched into better survival. Everything, you become resilient to insulin, to diabetes. You basically cannot be insulin resistant under glycogen depletion once you adapt. You can even eat sugar and nothing happens to you. You can be resilient to mental stress, but you need to adapt. You can't just abruptly take a person who never was under stress, person who never trained before, deplete the glycogen, they can faint. But you can say it on anything else that we involve fitness. Put an untrained person in the gym, make him run full speed, 12 miles an hour on the treadmill. In 30 seconds, he will fall apart. Mm-hmm. Let him lift heavy weight, can break the muscle. So I show in my book how to build yourself up to be super biological fit. So yes, exercise while empty and depleting glycogen sound crazy. It's against everything that we learn. And how it relates to martial artists, it's the best thing you can do to yourself on conditioning, because if you see mixed martial artists or boxers, many of them can start great and then they fade after the third or even fifth round. You can see how they gradually fade. Some of them do very well, but many of them are fading. So you may come on the first round, not the best one, but you may overcome your opponent simply because of your muscle and brain quality and durability, because you condition your body to endure stress and you are biologically fit rather than conventionally fit like your opponent. I am a big fan of boxing and mixed martial art. I think this is the ultimate, I wrote about it, human conditioning, because every species, dogs, puppy dogs, or kittens, you can see they're playing with fight or flight activities. The first thing that we do, it's just been crushed out of us, and thanks God there is a renaissance today. Would you like to injure yourself? Of course not. But we live in a world that we have a free will. Mm. So it's really up to the individual to decide how does he want to go with this. Young people have a tendency to go all the way out. As you get older, you become more of a teacher, so you can aid and help other people. Your question was very good. What shall you do in the fight itself? You can load energy if you want before the fight. It's unnecessary always. You need to know what to eat. We can discuss it. Regardless, your condition should be training your body to perform extremely well and resist fatigue under condition of extreme energy depletion. And have you not done it, you will face the wall. I saw great fighters, including McGregor, who fade out in the late rounds. And he's extremely talented. He has amazing skill. So that says to you something. And I truly believe in it.
Yeah, it's almost like, well, like you're saying, it's like this contradictory, or it sounds like the opposite of what we should do. So like, even like if you're a fighter, I mean, you named it the warrior diet for a reason. And then this, you've taken it to the next level, obviously. So when we're, like you mentioned, like from like 12 to 16 hours of fasting. So You're saying
fasting or under eating. I show people option, and it's really, sorry for cutting you.
no,
It's really up to the individual, because what could be very beneficial, like let's say 16 hours for you or for me, could be harmful to another guy who, for him or for her, that can create a situation of chronic stress. We have to understand that chronic stress is the evil part. That's the part we don't want to be in, and that's the part that will destroy us. Ryan, look at yourself. You and all mammals have this system, it's called fight or flight, respond to stress. It's engraved in your system, in the endocrine system. And that is a very powerful system. It's supposed to help you survive on an extreme danger, fast conditions that demand fast reaction, and brief fight or flight activities to save your life. The problem that this system never evolved to be prolonged. It has to be short. It can be reactivated, but you need a break. It has to be intermittent and short. It is very unfortunate that many people today, if not most, overactivate the fight or flight response. They're not always physically. It can be mental activation. They don't even know that they shift into a state of chronic stress. And that start to cause detrimental damage to the mental and physical state. The same hormone that's supposed to help you raise blood sugar, support your adrenal, help you react, become a counter-effective. The same stress hormone that you needed to survive now is destroying you physically and mentally. Elevated cortisol, chronic elevated cortisol, are one of the worst cause of modern man disease, etc. Can you hear me, Brian?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, the video kind of stopped for a second, but it cleared out. Now I could hear you fine the whole time.
So what I'm saying, every individual, intermittent fasting is a must. It's really one of the most important things. But I believe in intermittent fast of 1 meal a day, not every other day. 1 meal a day is the key. Mm-hmm. And you have to find your own rhythm. If you start to fast every other day or every 2 days, yes, some people like to choose to fast 2 days or 3 days. There is a very high risk here. And I don't think it justifies any advantage here. And the high risk is chronic stress. There's now testimonials that are coming to people who follow such diet. Many of them fell into jet lag. Many of them cannot sleep at night. I don't see it justify it at all. Don't take any risk. Don't overtrain. Don't overfast. And don't overstress yourself. Be clever with your regimen. Be smart. Create a regimen that do not overstress you, so you can really benefit from the hardship that you deliberately take on yourself.
And so if somebody is just getting started on this, they're used to eating like 3 times a day, 4 times a day, big meals, and they're interested, they start getting interested more in like longevity and like this, like how it affects the hormones and the, so do you like recommend like this, like kind of like gradual thing? And then like, how do they know when they've found their optimal eating pattern?
The goal has to be defined. We want to have intermittent fasting of 1 meal a day, but fasting, I explain in my book, does not need to be real water fasting. There are certain kind of food that complement your fasting and make it something even more effective than not eating at all. That all these nutrients, certain kind of plant food or certain kind of nutrient that you can put in your body, they actually activate the same gene that fasting exercise activate. Their whole collection of nutrients, which are called SAF, stress-activated food nutrient. And I was involved in a project which is called SAF. It's very interesting because plants produce this stress-activated molecule in response to stress. And when human or animal eat them, they actually benefit now the human or animals the same way and even more so as they would feed the plants. They activate genes, the same genes that you activate when you fast and exercise. They mimic the effects of fasting and exercise even when you sleep. So if exercise gives you the benefit of 1 up to 5 up to 6 hours, when you have these nutrients, they benefit you 24 hours or 48 hours, something that modern humans don't experience. Why do I say modern human? Because it's clearly that this nutrient did appear in the early human diet. Early humans used to enjoy every edible food. They used to eat more coarse food with barks and rhizomes and pits and peels. Everything that had nutrient was eaten or ground into herbs. So we still have traditional medicine using some of this compound. But again, no mayhem and not order. In my project SAF, we start to explain what are the nutrients that really activate your longevity genes, what nutrient can help you be biologically fit. And in my book, I also show how you don't have to do water fasting, but actually use some of this nutrient to further enhance the benefit. I'm saying all that because you asked me a question. I said the goal is intermittent fasting. Mm-hmm. How to do it? Yeah, use your instinct. If you feel that jumping into 10 or 16 hours fasting is too much, start it gradually. First of all, eliminate the breakfast. It's the worst meal of the day. Mm-hmm. That's the last thing you have. You can substitute breakfast with some green juices or maybe some berries. Move forward. Coffee, tea are okay. Second, eliminate lunch, another horrible meals that make you sleepy in the middle of the day. Mm. If your goal as an athlete is to still keep your muscle intact, there are ways to do it actually much better. You know, protein utilization in the muscle can be 90% higher when you eat good protein on empty stomach rather than on a full stomach. Protein waste is incredible, and protein is not a good fuel. I changed my way in many ways today. I used to be a big fan of protein shakes, especially whey protein. I still believe whey is a good stuff if you know how to choose it. I believe that all dairy from grass-fed, nutritional stress animals is good dairy. It's extremely good. And bad dairy is bad from grain from sick animals. Mm. However, I'm now against drinking shakes. I don't think solid human food, especially in the form of protein, should come as a liquid. I think that we have to use the saliva. I believe so. There's a lot of science behind how the saliva interact with our ability to utilize the food, not just digest it, utilize. How it's critical for the liver to get the right signal to utilize and build your immune system and all the growth factors or immune factors that are necessary to prepare you for proper digestion, utilization of food and nutrients, critically. So, and saliva also is a major organ that help you utilize nutrient from plant, especially nitrates, in order to give you an incredible anti-inflammatory effect for better and faster repair and overall health. Not understanding it is very bad. I also believe that when you do intermittent fasting, you really need to question yourself, what exactly do you put in your body? Probably the space is too short here. Many people confuse the warrior diet with the paleo diet, but we are very different. What's similar between the paleo and the warrior diet is the belief that there is something which is called biological predisposition of a species, our species, the human species, to certain kind of food, and we cannot ever ignore it. We have to look at the past and see how we biologically evolved to thrive. Both sides. However, the paleo believe in carnivore diet, in eating meat, and the warrior diet, my diet, do not, while eliminating dairy, eliminating legumes, the warrior diet is now not so much for the carnivore diet, though it's allowed, but a shift tremendously toward more vegetarian diet. I would bring all the science in the world to prove you that dairy, good dairy can benefit you, and legumes have been very successful in nourishing humans, and particularly now, because the legume have the capacity, certain kind of legumes, to reduce blood sugar, to reduce blood lipid, and in times when people have a tendency to actually become diabetic or obesity, and the vast majority of us are prone to that, eliminating such an important food group is, in my opinion, a terrible mistake. So if you know how to combine a good regimen of intermittent fasting with the right exercise, short intense, while you undereat or fasting, and compensate while eating to your heart from the right food, you cannot go wrong. You can never go wrong. And you can see how your body will start transforming itself. Not just becoming leaner and healthier, though I think it's nice to see. More vital, more energetic. In my opinion, smarter. You feel the energy and resilient to fatigue and aging.
Yeah, that's really cool. I quit eating meat when I was 15 years old. I'm a vegan now. I was a vegan probably about half of that time, but no meat at all since I was 15. That's and I'm 39. And something you were I was reading before, and you just mentioned it about the wild plants, like eating the wild plants, and I'm actually putting together a workshop in late September. I do most of my teaching at a wilderness survival school. That's where I do my strength and conditioning classes. I work at a personal training studio also, but most of what I do, I teach kids, adults at the wilderness school. I'm not the survival expert, but I'm the fitness dude. But I'm putting together this workshop there, and it's the third one that I've done like this, where I have 5 other instructors besides myself. And so I have like a couple like Ninja Warrior instructors, a Capoeira instructor, me. We're all doing just like body weight stuff. But this time I decided, and this was before I read in your 7 Principles of Stress, and I added an herbalist. So we have like all this strength and conditioning stuff going on, but then we're going to go on, we're going to go foraging. He's going to take us, and we're going to go just like right there. We don't have to like travel some long distance to find some magical plant. We're going to go like out in the yard, and there's stuff right there. And he was teaching it like as like a mindfulness and foraging, and herbs that support like the muscular skeletal system. So it was neat to just how you worded it, like the wild plants in your in this like breakdown of your this system that you have.
It is very important to understand the concept of stressed food. Most of our food comes from spoiled, overly protected, industrial cultivation, either hydroponic or, plants or sprouts that grow on steam with no earth. Much of our food is sterilized. We don't have exposure to soil bacteria. The food itself do not have to go through resiliency to it get fertilized and pesticized. Something that not only spoil the food, many cases, our food itself is obese. I'm not just talking about animals. Animals, of course, turkeys and many of the poor cows are overweight and obese. In fact, they even get hormones that make them fat. So these animals have pro-inflammatory hormones that are very bioactive in your system when you eat the flesh, both the meat and the fat. And plants that are obese are basically, we like the taste of them because they produce sugar, most sugar and starch. So we develop a palate now to seek food, not stress food. The food that existed in the early human diet 10 up to 30,000 years ago was very different. The corn, the primer corn, was not that sweet. Vegetables were very resilient. And so are the fruits. They grew wild. The plant themselves were incredibly resilient to heat shock, cold shock, and stuff. And those plants who could not survive simply perished by natural selection. So the gene keep improving, and the same rule happened with animals, and the same thing happened to us. But natural selection failed to work on us. It still works on us, but failed to do the same job that it used to do. Now, it's not the fittest who survive. Well, the guy was lucky enough to play the game. The survival of the unfittest is now taking place. You can see fat people, sick people taking a lot of power just because they manage to make money. They're not even the smartest people, but they manage. It's a system that is very upside down and biologically reversed. I don't want to sound like a guy who just believes in natural selection. I'm just saying it's a factor that we cannot ignore. But when it's coming to our food, it's very important for us not to get the wrong message to the body. You're right, many herbs are critical to our body because our diet is so deficient. But have we figured out a way to buy from the local farmer who is not over-fertilizing his plants, who doesn't even use pesticides if possible? And the plants are more resilient. They usually have different color. The heirloom tomato look twisted. Oranges have different color. Even the eggs of wild hens look different. They have different shape and even colors. And start getting used. I saw a huge difference between wild berries, even on the taste of wild strawberries, and these farm factory plants, fruits. Huge difference in apples. Slowly introduce yourself, and then bring the wild herbs. Generally, herbs are and weeds are wild. Dandelion, parsley, cilantro, oregano, thyme, all of them contain incredible longevity boosting nutrients. And some of them, not all of them, but some of the activity or longevity, bring them to your diet. It's part of your fitness. Spice, we have a palate for them. Wake up this palate. We should enjoy the taste of thyme more than the taste of Twinkie. We should enjoy the taste of oregano much more than the taste of marshmallow. We've got to build ourselves toward that. If we do, and if we do choose the food from stress sources, not for fertilized pesticides, overprotective sources, we can add many, many years to our life.
Yeah, you mentioned bacteria, and so a lot of times when people are like vegans, then people are like, well, you need to make sure you're taking a B12 vitamin because you're not going to get B12. B12 comes from meat. And then other people are like, no, actually B12 comes from bacteria. So when you're talking about the bacteria from these plants, was B12 something that you were thinking of, or are you talking about other nutrients in the bacteria or other benefits of the bacteria?
I think the benefit of bacteria go far beyond nutrients. Look, all animals, including us, we have 100 times more DNA coming from microbe in our system than in our own DNA. 100 times more. So they are inherently interacting with every process, biological process that make us who we are. And the highest activity is in the guts. So it's very, very important to understand which are the positive bacteria that's supposed to be in the guts to support our gut flora, and which are the pathogenic, because the majority could be pathogenic, especially today. And there are only two bacteria that I can say by all means proven to benefit mammals. One is the bifidobacteria that's supposed to appear in the breast milk of all mammals. That's the first bacteria that would support the newborn and give it the right capacity to resist infection. And the other one is Acidophilus. It is now found that many of the bacteria that we thought positive, probiotic, many strains are actually extremely harmful when they're becoming
Your video paused. I don't know if you can hear me.